Everyone knows Danny Trejo as a Hollywood tough guy, but most people don't know who he was before he got in front of the cameras. I'm talking drugs, violence, and incarceration in some of the toughest California prisons there's ever been. Places where you weren't guaranteed to walk out on your own 2 feet. What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. New video. Today we're going to be talking about Danny Trejo. I decided I wanted to change up a little bit and talk about this man's life, his experience, give a glimpse into what he went through, at least from my perspective, and what he's done. A lot of you may know the things that I'm going to talk about. You may have already heard them, but there's a lot of people who haven't. Danny Trejo is one of the most recognizable figures to ever be in front of a camera. Whether it's his face or that tattoo on his chest. Pretty much everyone has seen Danny Trejo. Now from the movies, you don't really get the full picture. He looks like a big dude. Danny Trejo is not that big. But his aura is, right? His presence is. Danny Trejo had an uncle of his that was very influential on him in his young years. And unfortunately, that influence, that uncle, led him to get involved with drugs and hustling at a very young age. It's been reported that Danny Trejo's first arrest is when he was around 10 years old. Imagine that. 10 years old, man. Busted for dope. It's reported that at a very young age, Danny Trejo, he was sent to the California Youth Authority. I was in the California Youth Authority, obviously way later. But the California Youth Authority was probably the most savage and brutal place I've ever done time. When you get to the adult system, there's politics. There's ways you are expected, ways you are demanded to carry yourself. Certain lines you don't cross. But in the California Youth Authority, there's none of that. You see people get brutalized, get their manhood taken, turn into punks. And everybody just stands back and watches because if you can't defend yourself, nobody's going to do it for you. And so at a very young age, Danny Trejo went through there. And then in the early 1960s, he entered the California Department of Corrections. He did time in San Quentin, Folsom, Soledad, and Susanville. Now, I want to make sure you guys understand, in the 1960s, in the early 1960s, when he entered the California Department of Corrections, the Big Four, the four groups known as organized crime that were created behind California prison walls, they were all pretty much in their infancy. The oldest one starting around 1959, the others coming after that. And so when Danny Trejo got there, the people that you hear about in books and movies, on YouTube, or maybe just whispered in your ear from people that were around back in the days, Danny Trejo met them. He did time with them. He knew them. They knew him. That was an extremely dangerous time back then. Especially in Old Folsom and San Quentin. And what did Danny Trejo do while he was incarcerated? he became known as a vicious boxer. Someone who was very good with his hands. Unfortunately, his incarceration, his repeated incarceration, was due to what he learned from that uncle at a very young age. His addiction led him to his incarceration time and time again. It was around 1968 when Danny Trejo finally got sober. I remember, I don't know if a lot of you guys know this, he became a drug counselor when he paroled. And it was his parole officer that actually got him into acting. And it's a trip because it was a parole officer that got me into becoming a CNC machinist. Not every parole officer is a bad dude. Sometimes they see something in you and they give you good advice that can help you forever. I remember when I was in prison, and this is what I was going to say. A lot of you guys may not know this, but Danny Trejo has done videos. I remember seeing him when I was incarcerated. Videos of him talking about sobriety. I believe one of them was with his lady at the time. I don't know if he's still with her. But I remember clearly, hopefully I got the song right, but he talked about being in his cell and jumping around his cell singing zippity doo dah, zippity yay, my oh my, what a beautiful day. And to people that don't know, that could have been a dangerous thing, man. A guy established, a guy who's rubbed elbows with legendary gangsters, bouncing around his cell, singing that song. There could have been a chance where somebody said, this dude lost his mind, man. He's a threat now. At least in my era of incarceration, that's how people were looked at if they acted different. But thankfully, he was singing that song because he was making a change. Danny Trejo has made great movies. Heat always sticks out to me. He's made great movies. He's made a lot of money. He has his name attached to a chain of restaurants. All great things. But to me, having lived a lifestyle, I never had an addiction. Not to a substance, not to a drug. My addiction was to a lifestyle. And to me, his greatest accomplishment was kicking that. Had he not kicked the dope, had he not stopped getting high, drinking, all that stuff, none of the other things were possible. So for anyone right now seeing this video, struggling with any type of addiction, going through whatever you're going through, hopefully this video, and more importantly, the example of Danny Trejo, can get you through the day, get you right, and make you better. That's my video for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Everybody please be safe, be smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them, man. I'm out of here.